It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, March 31st, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that likes this loose style of play the Flyers have been playing since Torts is gone.
It's a happier team.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are going to talk about new Flyers signee Karsen Dorwart. We're going to preview the game tonight against the Preds and give our nemesis of the week because it is, in fact, Monday. But the Flyers have put together a 2-game winning streak. And honestly, that means a lot these days, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the pros and cons. Like, yeah, you don't want to win too much
Right.
because you don't want to lose your draft position, but the players were so down and out that it was good for them to experience some winning. So it's a tightrope right now. Like what you want,
Yeah.
what they're doing. It's hard to to figure out what direction to go in.
Yeah, I think so. And just, in some of the John Tortorella cleanup, we got a little bit more insight into what happened with Cam York, that there was some sort of precipitating incident there that for Danny Briere seemed to be the final straw, right? That made him take the last step to terminate John Tortorella there. But that is indeed why Cam York was sitting on the bench and he took ownership and
Yeah.
responsibility and thought it was okay that he got benched for that game as a result of his actions. And I think, it seemed like it was handled pretty well.
I think from that end, yes, the lack of transparency, no. And still, we had to piece together. There were a bunch of us piecing together things. So it seemed pretty obvious also that John was unhappy that Jakob Pelletier was in this trade because he just looked at him as a small player. And then eventually, Charlie O'Connor pointed out, and I didn't hear this part of the press conference from Tampa, where he asked him about Pelletier, and he was just like, too small for the fourth line, not a good enough scorer to play, up in the lineup. And it's like, well, how would he
Right.
know? He never played him. But this was just something he was doing out of spite. And so, like, these are the reasons John's gone. There's like 4 or 5 big things. We've brought up a bunch of stuff on the show, and all of that impacted it.
Well, it's a good transition to talk about Jakob Pelletier in
Mm-hmm.
this game because he got his first goal as a Philadelphia Flyer against Buffalo. He had a little over 12 minutes of ice time, which is pretty solid and much closer to where he should be at the moment. And Bradshaw said post game that Jacob kind of thrives in the open ice and that he's been now coaching Peltier to skate more into the zone and use that space and use the speed of his line mates now that he's on the third line. And I think he's finding some success there.
He is, but Brad's also having the whole team skate more in the offensive zone, which I
That's
think is
true.
a marked difference from what John used to do, because we used to say like their puck possession was horrible. And so, yes, these are all good things, but obviously when you see Peltier on the rush with a good player, you see that there's
Mhm.
some ability there, and that's what you try to foster. So he was so relieved that he got that goal. The players were so happy for this guy because
Oh, yeah.
they know his struggle, and it's like, so the locker room is much happier now.
Yeah, and I even saw a note that Tippett and Paling got in the picture with him with his
Oh,
first
okay.
goal as a Flyer
That's nice.
photo. So that's teammates doing
Yes.
good teammate stuff. Really love
Yes.
that. I think one of the other obvious highlights of this game against the Sabres was Matvei Michkov
Mhm.
continuing his point streak with 5 games under his belt now. 2 goals in the game against the Sabres. He's got 4 goals and 5 assists, I believe,
Yeah.
in this time frame. that line is playing like gangbusters. Michkov is getting more ice time. He was about 20 minutes of ice
Yeah,
time.
which is what we said a long time ago he should have been getting, which is good. The other thing is, look, I thought he had a terrific game, but that second goal, Pekka Luukkonen might as well just walked out of the net. Like,
I
he had
know.
no idea how to defend that as a goalie. He made himself
Crazy.
like 6 foot instead of 6'6". Like, you can't do that with a player like Michkov. It's like he'll just kill you, and it's just like, okay, man. And that whole thing was just a tragic kind of thing, but it was great for him, and you could see that there's a lightness with the way he plays now too, because he now doesn't have to worry about, if I make a mistake, I'm gonna lose 5 minutes of ice time in this game. So that's a big load off of him.
It really is. And I think, part of me wanted to be like, just remember this is the Buffalo Sabres and he wouldn't be able to do this against other teams. And part of me is like, let's just go with it because
Right.
he's having fun. I'm
Yeah.
having fun.
Yeah.
And he's clearly, I think, building confidence in his skills and learning what he can and can't do in certain circumstances offensively. So this is a good thing, regardless.
Right. I think there's a misnomer out there, and I'll just address it this way. I'm not saying John was all bad with him. I think at the beginning it was
Yeah.
fine, but I think after like 2 months of it was too much. I also think that if you think this is the first time Matvei Michkov has had a hard coach, it's not. All those KHL coaches are that way. And the reason he was not with Ska and was with Sochi is because of that
Yes.
kind of stuff. And so, like,
Exactly.
that's normal coaching over in the KHL. This is not something new that he had to experience here. So he didn't need so much of that. That was my whole thing.
Yeah, and Bradshaw said after the game, scoring breeds that energy that makes just
Yes.
everything lighter on the bench, and that he's
Yep.
got a lighter hand in how he does things. So that kind of breeds the kind of hockey that the Flyers have been playing, and also that winning is fun, which, yes, it is. And I think that
Well,
helps.
and here's something else, okay? A little humility goes a long way. Like, not just saying, "Hey, I made a mistake," whatever. He basically apologized for having Bobby Brink on that power play with the 5 forwards. Like, he knew that
Yeah,
was a
he did.
mistake, and he said that. He didn't say Brink's name, and I understand why, but he said that. That is something John would never do.
No, and I think that was very gracious of
Yes.
Bradshaw, not just to apologize to Sam Ersson, but to, again, say it publicly, like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And I actually looked up the numbers, and scoring chances were actually even at 3 apiece when the Flyers were on the power play. So the Sabres got the same number of scoring chances as the Flyers on the
Well, yeah, because
Flyers
Alex
power
Tuck missed the
play.
net on the shorthanded
Right.
chance.
I know. I know.
So, if he didn't, he would have been a goal against.
Sure, but I do think that is absolutely a change and a breath of fresh
Yes.
air there. But the Flyers did pretty much handle the Sabres
Mhm.
scoring chance wise at 5-on-5, and that was important for me to see.
It was. I mean, that was, look, this was a game where they at least showed a little bit more. Now, listen, they came out like gangbusters, and then they lost the lead, and then they lost the lead again, right? I think they lost the lead twice. So there's still issues, obviously.
Oh, yes. And Bradshaw said as much. He's
Right.
like, we're scoring goals. There's still some issues here, but it's
Yeah.
fun. And
Right.
like, again, they're playing with house money right now.
They are.
Right. So, and I think everybody knows that. And so it just feels like the assignment here is to have fun,
Yeah.
play your game, and we'll do some minor tweaks around the edges when we can to improve things, but just
Right.
have fun out there because there's been some not fun recently.
Oh, yeah. No
So
question. I mean, I even think Konechny's having more fun again. I could just sense it in the locker room that he
totally.
was a little lighter than he had been.
Yeah.
And
I
it's not
think he's
because it's
having
just the not scoring. It was other stuff too, I think, that was probably weighing on him.
Yeah, I think he's having fun playing with Michkov, first off. That
Yes.
line is just looking great out there.
Yeah.
I think, we saw a little bit of a resurgence of the scoring from the Cates line. He had a goal and 2 assists.
Yeah.
Forster had a goal and assist.
Yeah.
And
Although
then
Forster's still missing the net way too much.
a
So,
little bit,
oh my
but I
goodness.
think his overall game just looked really
It
good
did. It looked good.
in that game in particular. And then of course Ryan Poehling continues to
Yeah.
find success
this
as
is his hot
well.
streak of the year for sure.
Yeah, 2 goals and an assist in this game. In his last 10 games, he's got 6 goals and 3 assists. That's pretty remarkable for
Oh,
him.
that's good. That's really, really good. That's good production from a lower in the lineup player. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say Owen Tippett, there was a goal that we thought was his, but then it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, but he had 2 assists when all was said and
He
done.
did.
I
He's
think
still missing the net too. Like it's just mind-boggling, but he did have an okay game. He's at least
yeah, he
asserting himself more, and that's good.
yes, he looks hungrier out there.
Yeah.
I think again, there's just a lightness, and
Yeah.
I think it'll be really interesting to see, how much Bradshaw's influence has in these last several
Right.
games and what it means going into the off season, what it means for the coaching search because like so far I think it's just created a better environment for these guys.
Right. I think it's just like now guys are looking more forward to going to work every day, for a lack of a better term.
I think so. All right. Well, there's going to be a new guy going to work with the Flyers, Karsen Dorwart, who is a free agent signing from Michigan State. We're going to talk about him and preview tonight's matchup against the Nashville Predators coming up next.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. I would bet on Duke. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long.
All right. On tomorrow's show, we will recap the game against the Preds we're about to talk about. Plus, we'll have our Phantoms Tuesday report. And Jet Luchenko had his first couple of games with the
Looks pretty good.
Phantoms. Yeah, so we'll talk about that. Alex Ciernik joins the team, did not play yet, but
Yep.
I think that's an important step for him in his development. And on Wednesday, we'll answer your mailbag questions. We already have a ton of them around the Tortorella firing, but please send in yours. There's a lot more topics we can cover. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com, send us a note on any of our socials, or comment on our YouTube channel. So Karsen Dorwart from Michigan State got a 2-year ELC, although we'll get into if it's really a 2-year ELC when all is said and done. $975K for the contract. He played at the 2C slot for Michigan State this year. They just lost in the Frozen Four tournament. He did score in that game, a pretty nice wraparound goal.
Yep. I saw
that I saw. And I think he's had a solid, career and has progressed in his years at Michigan State. He was in the USHL prior to that. And I think has just shown some steady progress over this.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I mean, some guys develop late, and I think he's one of them. I remember him in the USHL, but I didn't take any real note of him at the times that I saw him. Certainly you do now. He's definitely a player that could play in the NHL. He gets a decent amount of defensive zone responsibility. He's a good two-way center. He's a little bit feisty. He has some offense in his game. I think, he's not going to be a big scorer. I think he could have potential third line fill-in roles, but I think he's really like a 4C. And I think that's the sort of the way they're viewing him. And that's fine. I think if somebody's going to sort of view him and think it's going to solve their whole center problem, it won't, but it does give them more center depth. And to get a free player like that, and now it also fixes a roster issue that we had bitched about for a long time.
For a little while. And by signing him after the trade deadline, it allows them to put him directly onto the Flyers roster.
Right.
And that solves the call-up problem because the Flyers
Correct.
had burned all their call-ups. And while I think it seems like he's an AHLer with call-up potential, I think that's the reason why he goes directly to the Flyers, right?
Yes. Yeah, no question. And, he'll burn a year of ELC by playing in the NHL. And that's, pretty much the unspoken rule of getting any good player in the free agent market like that. And then if he
Right.
plays well, they'll sign him to a deal. So, yeah, I think it's a good signing. Anytime you could add center depth, it's a good thing.
Right, and he had gone to Red Wings dev
Mhm.
camp before, obviously a Michigan State guy going to Red Wings dev camp makes a ton of sense, so and I know there were other teams interested in him, and, I think it's good to know that the Flyers can sign one of the more, highly rated
Mhm.
college free agents, I think that's good for the organization as well.
Yeah, they played ball bonus wise. I saw the bonus structure. That's out there on Twitter. You could find that. So that was a thing, and also opportunity is a thing. So sometimes,
Yep.
even if a better team wants you, if they can't give you the same kind of opportunity, or they say it's really only for the AHL in the foreseeable future, that's something where the player sometimes goes, I kind of want to go where I have a better chance of playing. So that's where the Flyers, got a break on this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, tonight the Flyers face the Nashville Predators in the second of two games this season. The Flyers won the first one 3-2 way back in November. And I think even in November, there were hints that maybe the Preds weren't going to be
Oh
as
no, they
good
were big hints, I think, at that point.
at that point. Like maybe October
Yeah.
was the only time that the Preds had hope. But
Yes.
um, they were just eliminated from the playoffs. This is the second time in 3 seasons the Preds have missed the playoffs, even with all the change behind
Yep.
the scenes. It's very interesting times in Nashville.
Yeah, no question. I mean, drafting and developing hasn't been great. Trades have not been great. There's a lot of head scratching.
Yeah, they are 4-5-1 in their last 10. They have an abysmal record on the road, which bodes well for the Flyers. It's
Mhm.
9-22-5.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really rough. Now, they are trying to look toward the future a little bit. They just signed Matthew Wood to an
Yeah.
ELC. It's possible he'll be around, but we don't know as of recording.
No, I mean, I think again, they're going to give him a game or two, and it could be Philly because the only thing they said online was in the coming games he'll be with the Preds, coming days. So that could mean that it'd be interesting to see. He's a big kid with a long reach and a lot of skill. Not the fastest skater yet, but he's a big body. So if he's on the ice, you still have to account for him. So it'd be interesting to see. It'd be fun if he was in this game.
Yeah, of course, Roman Josi has been on IR, and that's been a huge factor for them.
A lot of their defensemen on IR. I mean, matter of fact, Emma was saying that Brady Shea is the longest tenured Nashville Predators defenseman on the blue line right now.
Oof, that is crazy to
I
think
mean, I don't
about.
even know how to react to that. But again, like one of the puzzling moves, just so fans understand, like non-Preds fans, that so like Dante Fabro, they just waived. He went on to
Right.
Columbus. He's played like almost 60 games for them. He's a plus 16, and he's had a terrific year. Why did they do this? Even Emma doesn't know, because I just asked her this morning for another show. So there's some puzzling things going on. Drafting and developing hasn't been great. They've traded away most of their first round picks. It's a mess. Like it goes back to Eli Tolvanen, which is pre-Trots, and it's
Yeah.
continued on. Tolvanen just got his 22nd goal. I don't think anybody in the world is surprised at that because at the draft we were
No,
like, yeah, this guy's got a
we all
tremendous
knew he
shot.
had promise.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bizarre thing how the
it is.
Preds handled Tolvanen, and I think that, Ann Kimmel, who is one of the hosts
He
of
could be a
Locked On
stud.
Predators,
Oh,
yeah,
no,
was
I'm talking about Kimmel in the with
no, no,
Milwaukee, not
no,
Ann. Uh,
no.
because
I'm talking about Ann, who hosts
Kimmel's
Locked
one of
On
their top
Preds.
draft picks, and he has promise.
Yeah, no, Anne had talked very highly about Tolvanen and was absolutely incensed by what happened
Yeah.
there. So, I get it. I totally get it. And I think it's just been overall really rough for them. And you have to wonder, like, what is the motivation for a Preds team versus the motivation for this Flyers team, given their current circumstances? And I have to give the advantage here to the Flyers, right?
Yeah, you do. And actually, Yeah, Joachim Kemmel. It's Kemmel, not Kimmel, but I kind of got
Yeah.
thrown on that. He played only 2 games with the Preds and they put him back down. So yeah,
Yep.
I don't know what to make of them. I feel bad for Steam Stamkos because I have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah.
The best thing the thing I always say about the Predators, Philip Forsberg is the unstoppable force as far as a guy who could score there, and everybody else goes there to die as far as scorers. Like they just never have the same kind of years, and I don't know why. I don't know what causes it. I don't think they know what causes it.
Yeah, and you say Saros in net is just a conundrum because some days he looks like the most elite goaltender you will ever see, and then some days, like, it's just a tragedy
He's
on
had a
ice.
horrible year.
Yeah, yeah, and
I'm not a fan. I
I
mean, to be fair, I am not a fan, but he's better than what he's played.
absolutely. I just think his lack of consistency is gonna be a problem, and it's interesting because you look at that and you look at the Flyers goaltending situation where we have a lack of consistency there, and we see it keeps them out of games sometimes where you just need that 1 or 2 extra saves, and the Flyers goaltenders haven't been able to do it. Saros hasn't been able to do it, and that's, led to some additional losses, I
Well,
think.
I think the Preds is a cautionary tale for the Flyers in a way that so when Trotz looked at Yaroslav Askarov, he was like, I don't like this guy. He flips over the net. I'm going to trade him and extend Saros. Now, he had
Mhm.
this whole belief in his mind, and preseason, I did not think the Preds were a great team. I thought they'd be a bubble playoff team at
Yeah,
best, and they've been
right.
worse than that. And so they had this whole thing in their mind. Now you extended Saros, which is a problem. You traded Askarov, which is a problem because now you've set up the Sharks, and you're still like in the same situation. And now you got a long-term goalie there with what looks like a rebuilding team, but they won't rebuild. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen there? And you don't want to get in that spot. It's a bad spot to be in.
Yeah, and right now the Preds are last in the NHL in goals for per game, and, I think that's certainly an opportunity for the
It
Flyers
is.
here, and that the Flyers have been on a scoring tear recently, and the Preds are slightly better than the Flyers defensively, but not very
Mhm.
much.
Not a
So,
lot. Not a lot.
yeah, so I do think there's gonna be a lot of opportunities for a lot of goals again from the Flyers,
Yes.
which would be fun.
Yeah, this could be a high scoring game. There's no question about it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, especially again because, much like with the Buffalo Sabres, the Preds are right near the Flyers in that draft order, and, the pros and cons are there, but also sometimes, like we said, sometimes the winning is good.
Yeah, sometimes it is. I mean, you don't want to drop from fourth to eighth, but you do want to win some games. So it's a fine line.
Yeah.
So how do you control that? Because I know people will ask that question. You play Fedotov more. That's how you control it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to think about it, and maybe we'll see him tonight. We don't know as of this moment, but I think it would be an interesting choice for sure. All right, like I said, we will talk about this game on tomorrow's show. In the meantime, it is Monday, so we will have our nemesis of the week coming up next. Before we dig into Nemesis of the week, Russ, you were in arena for the game against the Sabres. How was the honoring of Bob Kelly and all of that around it?
It was great. I mean, he's such a good guy. They showed a lot of video. They showed him and he was able to wave to the crowd and such. It was really nice. He has a good spot in my book, Game Winners, just saying. That's what he has, a very
You
important
should
game
buy that
winning.
book.
You should buy that book. But no, I mean, it was great for Bob and I was really happy, and they sent him off in a very good way. I saw that on the Flyers Twitter feed. Dan Hilferty spoke. There
Yep.
was a video. All of that was really good.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was an NHL Network game for me, so I didn't even get the
Mm.
Flyers broadcast, so I didn't get
Oh,
all the fun stories in between.
no, that's
I was very
terrible.
upset, very
I
upset.
bet.
They said a little bit, but it was not as good as what the Flyers broadcast would have
No, no
been. So
way.
I was a little bummed out about that. I think, you know, like I said, when they announced that they were doing this, he was so nice to my mom when we had our birthday celebration for her in a suite there one year, and just best wishes to him, and
Delightful guy.
hope he has a lot of fun in his official retirement.
And he got a cruise to Alaska, which again, some people were trying to say like the Flyers were cheap or whatever, but Bill Metzer shined a light on that. He doesn't like to fly. So there was no other
Yeah.
way he was ever going to get to Alaska but a cruise. So
Yep.
that was a nice gift.
Yep. Very nice gift. And I've been on an Alaska cruise. They're a lot of fun. All right, our nemesis of the week. Last week, I talked about the Flyers potentially making a rash move about the goaltending. And then they did and called up Kolosov.
Yep.
I was not happy to be right about that, Russ. I was
No.
not.
No, I think even Danny Briere was not happy in retrospect what happened.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, nobody was happy with that.
Yeah, and then you talked about credit card transaction fees and them getting passed along to the
Yep.
consumer, such as yourself, and you did not like that.
Nope.
I think it's fair, and I think they should just bury it in the cost so you don't know they're doing it. And
yeah, and then I could decide if their cost is too high. That's fine.
Yep. So I thought that was good. For me this week, I think the nemesis is that we're having fun right now. These first two games in the Bradshaw interim head coach era have been a ton of fun with a lot of scoring. The defense is a little questionable, but it's okay because again, a lot of scoring. Michkov is flying. He's kind of higher back in the Calder conversation again. It's just a good time, right? If you look at the schedule this week, we have this game against the Preds tonight, and then the Flyers don't play again till Saturday. Like, that's a bummer. Like, I want to keep this fun going. Give me at least one more game in between NHL. And the schedule had been so jam-packed for
and you know
many
what?
weeks.
Then if that were the case, why wouldn't you play the Flyers on Tuesday instead of Monday? Because Monday's Phillies opening day, and it's going to be mayhem.
I know.
Makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
Come on,
whatsoever.
schedule maker. Come on.
Yeah, so I'm like kind of mad at the schedule gods this week because I would like more Flyers fun and more Michkov out there doing his thing this week. But nope, we only get 2 games this week, which is annoying. So what is your nemesis this week, Russ?
My nemesis is a trend in baseball ballpark food. So like, listen, we understand you're there for a long time. Teams have spent a lot of money, and there are a lot of good dishes to get. My big thing is you can't just jam something into a plastic helmet, whether it's a mini or a big one, charge more and think that you have elevated that dish. So as an example, the Dodgers have put tiramisu in like a mini batting helmet, and that is going to be a sloppy, disgusting mess in my estimation. So that's a horrible idea. Then I saw,
but you have the bowl there, so it's not going to like get all over everything because
it's not a real bowl.
Contained in the bowl.
It's not a perfectly round bowl, as you know. It's a narrow thing, and so it works for ice cream because the ice cream doesn't fill the whole thing; it only fills a portion of it. So there's that. And then, if this is real or not, there was a picture out there where the Dodgers are. You know how they have like nachos in a big batting helmet, like a big plastic one. Well, now they're doing like they're just throwing hot dogs in that, and it's like, do better. The teams that think they could just throw hot dogs in a big batting helmet and charge more because it's in that is just dumb. And so, like, I don't understand it. Just, you want to make your great food, make your great food. But everybody just seems to want to just top everybody just for like getting likes online or getting mentions online. And it's just getting stupid. That's all.
Well, my baseball food complaint was last year about the elimination of Dollar Dog Day because that was always an occasion. And I loved that the Flyers took the mantle upon themselves. And that was a very smart move on the Flyers' part. So I at least appreciate that. I'm hoping to get to some games this year, get outside, especially after the weather on Saturday was so nice. It was very, very baseball.
My whole thing is I don't want something too messy. If I already see if I'm going to pick something up and it can start oozing on the sides, if I'm wearing like a replica jersey, I don't want my whole lunch to be on me or dinner. So it's like I limit that anyhow. So that's another thing. It's like too sloppy, I'm out.
All right, that's fair enough. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. And tomorrow on the show, we will talk Flyers versus Preds. We're going to have Phantoms Tuesday. Plus, Russ, you can talk a little bit about your experience at the Frozen Four in Lehigh, and if there are any prospects of note
There are
to come out of that
goaltenders.
regional. Yep. We talked about that in our preview of it last week as well. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. Send in those mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. It brings you daily league-wide stories that matter with local coverage you love from Locked On, including me on the Friday show, as well as Saturday's Women's Hockey Report. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.